हरिः कर्ता।
Now let's look into the next technique in data imputation, that is regression. So regression imputation, also known as regression based imputation, is another method used for handling missing data in time series datasets. This method involves using regression models to estimate the missing values based on the relationships observed in the available data. So, a regression based imputation is a method used for handling missing data in time series datasets, and this method involves using regression models to estimate missing values based on the relationships observed in the available data. So now let's look into the regression imputation process step by step. So step one, as usual, you have to identify the missing values in the data, in the time series data or the data set, whatever it may be. So here is my missing values, 2019 3 and 2019 5. These are the two missing values of sales. Okay, in month Jan, Feb, March, April, in this month. So these are the sales and these are my advertising expenses, and you can clearly see this data. Sales data is missing in March and May. Now, next step two, split the data into two parts. One is the complete data, observations without missing values. Okay, you have to make it into two parts. One, complete data, which is nothing but observations without missing values, and the second one is incomplete data, so which is observations with missing values. Okay, and step 3, use the complete data to build a regression model. So the complete data should consist of the 3 series variable with missing value as the dependent variable and the other relevant variables as independent variable. Whichever is missing, that one should be your dependent variable and the other relevant variables as independent variables. Then step 4, use the regression model to predict the missing values in the incomplete data based on the values of the independent variables. And step 5, the last step, replace the missing values with the predicted values from the regression model. Okay. Now let's take a simple example first, and then we will understand. And after replacing the missing values with the predicted values from the regression model, this is how it looks. Okay, so now let's take a simple example and regression imputation. So two things I just want to highlight before we take an example, that we have to predict the missing values in a complete data based on the values of the independent variable. But which one will become a dependent variable, which one will become an independent variable? That's what I want to make sure. So I want you to make sure. So the complete data should consist of the time series variable. So with missing values, now dependent variable would be the variable which has missing values, and independent variables are other relevant variables which have non-missing values. Okay. And one more thing is regression imputation can be done using various regression techniques. Various regression techniques such as simple linear regression, multiple linear regression, and ARIMA is also known as autoregressive integrated moving average. These are all widely used in time series data, or this is also known as a seasonal decomposition of time, or we can also use seasonal decomposition of time series, STL. So basically all these methods are used in predictive analytics with time series data. These are very, very important uh, regression techniques. Okay, so now for example, let's consider a time series data. Let's get into this. Let's consider a time series data set of monthly sales data with missing value. Monthly sales data with missing values. Using regression imputation, we can build a regression model with sales as the dependent variable. That's what is target. So what I'm gonna do here is, this is my data set. Okay, DF. Let me call upon this DF. No, sorry. And so this is my data set, and here monthly sales data is missing. It has some monthly sales. Some of the cells are missing. You see that? March and May. Now to first we have to build a regression model. So my regression model should consist of should consist of a dependent variable and independent variable. So what is dependent variable for me? In this, dependent variable is equal to sales column, and independent variable for me, sales as dependent variable and advertising expenses as the independent variable. Independent variable is equal to advertising expenses. That's it. Then using the complete data from January to April. So then we can use the regression model to predict missing values for March and May based on the values of advertising expense. So the predicted values can then be used to replace the missing values in the sales column. That's what. Okay. Now let's do this. So for that I need to import pandas as PD. Then from sklearn I need to go for the linear model, and from the linear model I need to import linear regression. As successfully imported, now it's time to look into our data. So this is our data. Now from this data we have decided the dependent variable and the independent variable. So now I need to fit it into that algorithm. Okay, I need to fit this data into that algorithm. But before that, we need to split this data. You see that? Step 2, split the data into two parts. Let's split the data into complete and incomplete data. So complete data is equal to drop NA. So let me check the complete data, and here is your complete data. Then incomplete data is equal to df of sales. Obviously it should not consist of is null, is not available. That's what the method. And incomplete data, and here it is. So if it has, and that's what is we want. Okay, that's it. The data has been split into complete and incomplete. Next, build regression model. Next step is to build a regression model. So regression model is equal to linear regression. That's the variable name. Then now it's time to decide the independent variables and dependent variables. X is our independent variable, so our predictor. So X is equal to, I'm going to go for the complete data set. I want to get the values from complete data. Complete data. From there, for me, X is the independent variable is, as we have discussed earlier, that's advertising expenses. Complete data is here. Let me bring this one. So this is my X. If you want to see, yeah, this is my X, advertising expenses. This is my X value. Now dependent variable or target variable. So this is also from complete data, because I need to train my model from complete data only. So sales. This is our dependent variable. Let me write down here. Let me write it down. Dependent variable, and here it is independent variable. Independent variables. So now that's it, all done. Now it's simple, pretty simple. Directly fit this into the model. So regression model, and I'm gonna use just fit, and then I need to fit X and Y. First X, then Y. That's it. This is your model, regression model. Now predict missing values using regression model. Predict missing values using regression model. So for that, let's take incomplete data, and inside that incomplete data, let me take the sales. That's where I have missing values. So is equal to regression model, and then now it's time to predict. It's time to predict from the incomplete data. So that's what we'll be doing here. Okay, so first the training has been done. Now it's time to predict it. It's time to test it. So predict incomplete data advertising. Let me directly bring it from here, and that's it. From training to predicting, all done. Now it's time to replace the missing values with the predicted values in actual dataset, in original dataset. So replace missing values with predicted values. So df dot update and incomplete data. So df, and here is that magic. From this stage NAN, we reach this stage 128551542, which actually making some sense in this case. And same thing you can do it for your data set, a time series data set also. But the thing is, you need to train your model first, then only you can predict, and you can replace that null values with the predicted values, and this is what we call it as a regression imputation. So now let's look back into the example one more time, whatever we have seen so far in a regression. So it's important to note that a regression imputation assumes that there is a meaningful relationship between the dependent and independent variables, and that this relationship holds for the missing values as well, additionally like other imputation methods. So regression imputation introduces potential biases or distortion in the data and should be used with caution. So it's crucial to carefully consider the underlying data, the appropriateness of the regression model, and the potential impact of the imputed values on the analysis results. So validation of the imputed values and sensitivity analysis may also be performed to assess the robustness of the imputation results.